Welcome to Heat Up Your Retreats with Amanda Heater.
Welcome back to the Heat Up Your Retreats podcast, where we help you turn your message into movement, your events into income, and your calling into impact. I am your host, Amanda Heater, and today's episode is going to hit home for so many of you, especially if you've ever felt like money stress is holding you back from stepping into your next level. Today, I'm joined by Dave Jacobson, a nationally recognized personal finance expert and the founder of Coach Connections and Accountable Network. Dave has helped over 2,500 clients not only build wealth, but more importantly, find peace, clarity, and confidence around money. What I love about Dave is that he doesn't just teach numbers. He teaches behavior, mindset, and accountability, which, let's be honest, is exactly what most people are missing. So, if you are a coach, speaker, or retreat leader who knows that you're called to more, but money might feel like a barrier, this conversation is for you. Dave, welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you're here today.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to have a lot of fun. I know money sometimes is not a conversation that people like to talk about. They always say religion, finances, and politics are conversations you stay far away from. If it's family, friends, people you don't know, it's just conversations people don't like to have. So I know that this is going to be fun because money is a big part of putting together a retreat because people have to have the finances behind it. So I'd love to just dive in and ask some questions and pick your brain and see how we can just provide some value to the audience today.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. So Dave, you have worked with thousands of clients. What is the biggest mistake that you see people making when it comes to money that's actually keeping them stuck?
It's different for everybody. Every human's different. Everybody that approaches money or whatever they're facing approaches it differently. So everybody's unique, but usually they're focused on the wrong thing. They are looking for a tool, a resource, a first step to take. So they go out and they read and they research and they say, well, I'm supposed to save. I'm supposed to not have debt. I'm supposed to invest in this thing. I'm supposed to do that. And they get this mess of tools, tech, easy button things. And frankly, none of it really works for them. So then they just get frustrated. And, we see it all the time as far as a roller coaster. Somebody gets all excited. They get whatever they're going to implement and they move forward and they get some traction. And they're like, okay, this is it. This is easy. And then they lighten up a little bit, maybe the next month. And then things get not as great. And then they beat themselves up over having a bad month. And they're like, well, there's something wrong with me, or that tool was bad. And then they try the next thing and they're just always spinning and never get like a peace, contentment, and way to work with things that works for them. So that's a big piece of it. There's a lot more to it than that because it's so unique to each individual as far as what's keeping them stuck. But I would say is probably the biggest thing we see right away is those elements.
I get that. I actually have been there myself where it's like, oh, wow, like I'm starting to see that I'm paying off debt and, I'm saving money. And then the following month, especially as an entrepreneur, we have ups and downs as entrepreneurs, like the roller coaster. And it's like, oh, well, this month I don't have as much. So I've been there. And I know that the listeners that are tuning in today, they're probably thinking the same thing. I've been there. And so I know that a lot of talk about money is actually tied to behavior. So can you break that down for us? Why do people know what to do, but they still don't do it?
That's the trick question. That's really the art of coaching. It kind of ties into the first question a little bit because people are looking for the answer. If I just get equipped, if I get the education or if I get the financial literacy, and frankly, when coaches come to us to be trained, we run into this with them. We have to retrain how they think and approach it because the coach themselves is thinking, a newer coach that hasn't been trained right is thinking, I had this transformation or I have this way of doing it that worked for me. If I just share this education, this financial literacy with somebody, the light bulb's going to go off. They're going to have this aha moment and they're going to have an amazing life and it's going to be easy. And it doesn't work. And then they get frustrated because they think there's something wrong with the client because they don't want it bad enough or they're not gazelle intense or what have you. That's the wrong approach. Usually people know roughly what they're supposed to do. Let's break it down simply. Live in less than you make, save, give, have a plan. Okay? It's really not that hard, but why don't people do it? It's usually because something's in the way, something's blocking them. Real coaching isn't, yes, we do incorporate education and literacy, and we do it in a way, a true coach, because true coaches don't sell anything. We call ourselves financial accountability coaches. We don't sell insurance, investments, any product that's tied to any direction we had we don't make recommendations. Any direction we had isn't because we have an end goal in mind to move them towards a product, I guess. So what we'll do is we want to do a deep dive into the why. Why do they want to do something? Why is this important to them? And we go past the superficial budget, debt, things like that, because that's what people approach us with. Gee, Dave, can you help me? I want to get a budget in place. I want to have a plan. I want to reduce debt, emergency fund. I'm like, no, you don't. No, so think about it. Who wants to really reduce debt? Because if you're paying money towards debt, you don't get to go to a cool retreat.
Right.
Because you're using the money for debt. It's like putting shingles on your house. It's nobody really wants to, you need to do it and you should do it. And if you don't, you're going to have leaks and issues and it's bad over time and things like that. But nobody really wants to get out of debt. Don't tell me you want to get out of debt. What do you really want?
Yeah.
That's when they start talking about, I have to work extra hours at work, try to get more sales. And because of that, I'm missing my daughter's soccer game. What they really want is balance in their life so that not just chasing a dollar or things like that. They want to be able to experience life and have income and all this stuff. That's what we really want, that connection, the relationships, those types of things. So once we get fixed on that, why, it really helps us to uncover the true blocks that are in people's way. We have some really neat blogs and articles on that, but if you want, I can tell a quick story on how that works. So I was working with another coach and they came to me and said, my client is stuck. They came to coaching, husband and wife, and they both said they were interested. We moved forward with coaching, and right away in sessions, she started to not be engaged. She would give, yeah, whatever you want, dear, type answers. And we've been at it for like 3 weeks of just trying to get her to participate. So you can just kind of feel it, right? The coach and not only her, but the spouse is probably pretty frustrated with, you said you were interested in this. You said it's important. Why aren't you engaging? And you're missing sessions and things like that. So the coach and the spouse are thinking, how do we fix her? Right? So I'm like, okay, let's take a step back and start looking at options. Options give us choices. Because the coach is thinking, how do I fix her? How do I fix her? We need to learn more. We need to dive in and find out what's in the way. Start asking questions. And here's a series of questions. The only one that can ask the question and know which question is right is you, because you're there. That's the art of coaching. But I gave him a series of questions. He started asking those questions, and within 4 minutes, he uncovered that this is a third marriage. In the first two, she was not only physically, but emotionally abused, usually around the topic of money.
Wow.
I could give a golden budget to him. Do this and you'll have success. Do this action and you will succeed. She won't engage because she's afraid of, if I say I want this for groceries or do this, I'm going to be in trouble because it'll never be right. So what did we have to work on in coaching? Healing that relationship, building trust, letting her know it's a safe space. Once we have that foundation in place, now we can deal with numbers stuff. I almost swore in your podcast. We can deal with numbers stuff, right? So that's coaching, is being able to dive in and find out what's the real block and hurdle. Not, hey, I have this really cool way to eliminate debt. It's the debt snowball. I mean, no, just pay extra and you'll get rid of debt. Because it doesn't really matter which tool you use. Each tool is different for everybody. So that is the background behind what really creates momentum and gets people unlocked.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I want to go back to when you're coaching your clients, because I do this similarly as well, that you go to their why of why do they want to be debt
Yeah.
free, and like what is their why with wanting more money. And usually it stems with being with their loved ones.
Yeah.
Because honestly, with me, with the business I run, the reason I wanted to run a business on my own was so I could have freedom of time to be with my kids when I wanted. Didn't
Yeah.
want to have to ask my employer for time off. I wanted to travel when I wanted to. It was all about freedom of time. And when I actually, with my clients that are hosting these events, my very first question is, what is your why behind all of
Yeah.
this? And I'll get the same runaround of like, oh, I want to help people. Well, no, no, no. What is your actual
What is
why?
your why? Yeah.
What is your why? Yes, it's
Yeah.
great you want to help people, but that's not your
Yeah.
why. And that usually comes back to they want to have freedom of time or they want to be with their family more, which still is back to the freedom of time.
Yeah.
And so I love that you incorporate that in. That is so key to really start a relationship as a coach. And that's so important. So, for coaches and speakers and retreat leaders that are listening to this today, how does poor financial management or mindset actually limit their ability to grow their business or host retreats?
I'm going to focus on the host retreats part because I learned this early on. I started hosting retreats pretty much right away when I started my business. And the reason was I found that doing my business all alone on an island, it's just me, and it's just me. There's so many people that are smarter than me that I can surround myself with. So I started to connect, and that's we got our name, Coach Connections. We're coaches that connect. So I started to gather people together. I didn't have any money. I didn't know how to reach out to hotels to book stuff. I didn't realize how expensive it was. So we just kind of put on a coaching hat and got creative. I would say you could approach retreats probably still the same way. We do it a little differently now, but we didn't have any money, so it forced us because we don't do that. It forced us to get creative. So we would go to hotels, pick an area that we thought people could fly into easy or travel to or get to. And then we figured out everything is negotiable. We go to a hotel and say, we really love your facility. Can't really afford your meals package. We want to bring in our own food. Oh, we can't do that. No problem. We're going to go to the next place. Well, okay, you can bring in your food. All right. We can't afford your $1,500 to $2,000 AV package. We're going to bring in our own. No, we have a requirement that you need to do that. No problem. We'll go to okay, fine. You can do your own AV package. So it's really kind of fun. I still do it to this day. I buy a certain type of speaker, and then I have some other stuff that I always have, like mics and stuff that always connect to it. And then when we leave the place, I usually just give it to a member as a giveaway gift. I can spend about $800 total on projection screens, speakers, anything I need for AV, the nice flip chart thing versus the $1,500 a day. And
Mm-hmm.
then I just give it to members and they love it because then they can go use it in their speaking and things like that. So I guess I would say everything is negotiable as long as you hold to, I don't say thinking outside the box, but that's kind of an old school term, just getting creative. You
Yeah.
don't have to be stuck. And the same is true in our lives and our business. We can make anything happen if we want to bad enough.
I love it. Were you a travel agent like in your previous life, Dave?
No, but we travel a lot. And speaking of travel, the first time you mentioned freedom of time, I practice what I preach. So our first conversation, you we connected. I was on the road doing a
Mm-hmm.
road trip with my daughter. She had just graduated from college. She's got this window of time before she starts real work. That's She's going to be in 2 weeks of vacation mode pretty soon. I'm never going to see her, right? And then she's going to get
Yeah.
a significant other, and then I may not even like the guy. So I'm going to spend time with her while I can, right? So I'm like, you love hiking, let's go on a hike. So we did 3,700 miles. 60 hours of windshield time and just connected, did some really cool hikes. It was neat, but that's just it. I have that freedom. And then I can work when I need to. We had a call, so we pulled off on the side of the road, find a place with reception, and you can do those things. That's why the building your own business is so cool, is to get
I
that
agree.
freedom.
I 100% agree. I love it. Are you guys listening? Listening to Dave? He is full of nuggets today. I hope everybody's taking notes. So, you emphasize accountability as being a core piece of financial success, and I 100% agree with that. Why is accountability so powerful? And how can someone build that into their life if they don't have it right now?
So I'm going to give you a couple different options, and this is a pretty big topic. It could be a whole podcast in itself. So I'm going to try to succinctly say it, and I'm not always great at succinctly saying stuff, but accountability in general without any boundaries or structure around it is it doesn't work. You need to tie it all together and bring it full circle with some boundaries, some things that will happen if you succeed, things will happen if you don't. So you have a reason for the accountability. Otherwise, it's just almost like a goal, or a New Year's resolution that we just give up on. So that's the first piece. It has to be true accountability. The next thing is I'm going to give you a couple things. If you don't want to coach or hire somebody, there are some ways to get accountability. You can ask a friend, relative, somebody in your life to be your accountability partner. You got to be. Here's some criteria you look for. You want to be able to go to them and say, I would like you to help me with this. I don't want you to be always just nice or yes, okay, whatever you want. You need to be able to push me a little bit. Are you comfortable with that? You need to have that heart to heart with them, because you don't want a yes, ma'am type accountability partner. Okay.
Right.
They're there for a reason, to hold you accountable, and have them hold you accountable. In coaching, I share with coaches because sometimes coaches just want to be nice and things like that. I'm like, we can be nice, but at the same time, just think of it, you're at the gym and somebody's on the treadmill. Do you want the coach that says, you look like you might be getting a little tired. Do you want to take a break? Or do you want the coach that said, you can do a little bit more than you think you can. Let's go. That's the type of person that you want to look for, and that'll speak the truth to you. They don't have to be mean. It's just that's the type of thing you're looking for in an individual to hold you accountable. And then I guess another option is I was to hire out, get a coach yourself, the second set of eyes. They're not emotionally attached to your situation. Some of your friends, family, coworkers are going to get tied into your stories and, oh, you should do this. Coach is going to be like, does that really make sense? Let's talk through this, because they are not emotionally attached to it. And they don't judge. If you want to do that, go ahead. We don't tell anybody what to do, but we're going to help you think through it clearly. So I'd say, I think that answers your question.
100%. It
Okay.
does. And honestly, the best option sounds like hiring a coach to help you out with that.
It
It's
can
great to
be.
work. What did you say, Dave?
It can be, but you don't have to hire a coach. There's options, but we're pretty good at what we do.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. You really have been sharing some good nuggets today. And as you're saying, like work with somebody to have them help you stay on track with your goals. Like it's like you said, no different than working with like a coach in the gym or someone that's pushing you in life. Like a financial coach, you want someone that's going to push you and someone that's going to help you reach your goals, which most of us, our goals and our whys is very similar to what we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, which is freedom of time, being with your family. And when you keep that in mind and also allow your accountability partner to have that in mind, they're going to ask you those questions of, well, is this pushing you towards that goal? And if it's not, then you shouldn't be doing it. So it's so key to have somebody that's going to be by your side, walking you through, making sure that you're reaching those goals financially so you can have the true goal of your why. Okay, so my next question for you, Dave. If someone is feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or even ashamed about their financial situation, what would you say to them to give them hope and help them take that very first step?
That is a tough one. it's everybody's so different and what their feelings are and things like that. I would say 80% of the people that reach out for coaching have some sort of guilt. They feel like they're not good enough, all that other stuff. And frankly, you'd never know it by looking outside in. These
Mm-hmm.
could be extremely successful people, business owners, advisors, CPAs, any professional, any business owner. Money, like it should be easy. It should be simple. And frankly, it is if you do it right. But nobody teaches the foundational stuff right. And when you have that insight and aha moments about how simple this really can be, it kind of changes your perspective. That as an answer to your question was how does somebody get over that initial overwhelm or stress? I'd like to say it's just taking a step because that first step is good, but an individual is just going to get frustrated. So I would say ask a friend or like we just talked about an accountability partner.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't alone. I mean, I don't know where people get stats. I think 87% of stats are made up. But what do they say? 70% of people live paycheck to paycheck. Now, what does that mean even, right? What is paycheck to paycheck? But
Right.
we all have seen the stats about how many people struggle with money. You'd be surprised if you start talking about money stuff with people, people will answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that we have this block in our minds that we're not supposed to. And I think a lot of it is internal about not wanting to share our issues. But as soon as you do, you start to connect with people
Yep.
and things like that. Now, I'm not saying you start connecting with people and you're sharing it with the broke brother-in-law, and the broke brother-in-law is, well, here's what you should do. Be careful where you get the advice from, but
Yes.
maybe that is the good first step, is talking to somebody. We have a really neat program called the Coach Match Process through Accountable Network, where you just literally have a conversation with me. 90% of the conversations are with me, and then Scott will handle some of them. But I get to know you, your situation, what you're facing. We determine a good next step. If it's coaching, we match you with a coach that has either been through that themselves or is trained in that experience. So then it almost becomes like a mentor or guide.
That's
So a lot of
awesome.
your coaches are business owners. We have business financial coaches, some that specialize in complex businesses, some simple businesses, some plumbing, some this, but they've got experience going through that. So we're not training on that. And then on the business side, we don't know as much as you know about your business. You are the expert in your business.
Mm-hmm.
We coach the human, the individual, because there's blocks and things like that. And then they can do better in their business. But that coach match process is really powerful because it's not just like going to the realty company and they pick the next agent on the list and they don't even are they're not even familiar with the area of town that you want to live in type thing. So that's a pretty neat deal. Just reach out and start talking to people.
I love that. Now, I want to dive into something that our school system is kind of failing in. And I know that you realize this, and you even created a video game that's actually teaching teens about money. And that's so important. I wish I would have had a financial class or a video game when I was a kid. So I love that you did that. So, why is it so important to start these conversations early with children and teenagers?
I wish you could see the impact that it has of starting early. I've got a not only the video game that's geared towards teens and young adults, but we also have a kids and money program
Oh, wow.
that educates and equips the adult. It's kind of like you don't go to dog obedience for the dog. You go to dog obedience to train the human on how to be consistent and here's what you should do with your dog and then the dog listens but it's yeah. So I have a kids and money that helps educate the parents on how to start having these conversations, how to inject money conversations into real life in a healthy way, things like that. You wouldn't believe the number of clients I come across. I just visited with somebody the other day. They were in their mid 80s
Wow.
and they started talking about their struggles with money, and it's always been that way. And they'd mentioned the conversation that they had when they were 16 with their dad. And they
Mm,
said this statement. And since then, they've always had a fear of money.
Wow.
This is an 80-something-year-old. Their parents
Mm.
are gone, and it's still stuck living with them. So, what if we could switch that around to where we can start having healthy conversations? What we're going to unlock and be able to help our kids do is launch even better without fear of having money discussions. And but they go into relationships with their spouse and they have healthy money conversations. That's where we want to get to.
Yeah.
So the video game is really kind of neat. There's so much to it. So first of all, it's not about a pile of money and debt free. That is not success. Money helps, and people are like, well, yeah, if I had money, then I'd be able to have fun. I'd be able to travel. I get it, but wealth is holistic. So we talk about it in the form of happiness. And you can
Mm-hmm.
get happiness wheel and put out whatever you want in it of health, finances, spirituality, vocation, and those other elements, right? Because it all piles together. Because if you have all this money and success, but you don't have any relationships, wait a minute, I thought we were building the business so we could have time with our family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to do it in balance. It's not a round wheel. Everybody's balance is determined differently, but that's the first thing we do with the kids in the program is one, they create an avatar and decorate them and things like that and different hair color or whatever they want to do. But they have a happiness scale and they rank what's important to them. It's that our version in the game of the why. I
Mm.
value financial stability the here. I want giving to be here. I want this one to be here. And they only have so many resources to use, and they have to think about ahead of time. They may not connect the dots right away that we're building a why for them, but then what happens is we took, I think it's 67 of the most common financial situations that we saw clients having. So I just surveyed the group, looked at all my clients, said, what do people typically run into? They have to
Mm-hmm.
buy a car, they have an emergency, they buy a house, they have a college decision. We took all those scenarios and plugged it into the game because the best way people have of learning is to go try it.
Yeah.
We go experience life, then we make a mistake, and then we hopefully learn from it and go, why can't we make those mistakes or experience the opportunity cost decisions in a game?
Mm.
Is it going to make our next decision perfect? No, but at least it's not foreign to us or totally new. We're like, I kind of have an idea of how to kind of process this now because if I go this to make this decision, it's going to go this way. That type of thing goes on in their head. So, but here's what's cool about the game because they preset what's important to them, their why. In the game, they're going to have financial decisions, any decision really, and they have to
Mm-hmm.
make an opportunity cost decision. If they choose this, then they
Wow.
can't do that. If they choose this, they can't do that. But it's tied to what they said is important, not what I said is important, not what Dave said, here's how you build wealth. That's not what the game is. Because what I wanted to inject into the game and the developers were able to do, and I was actually surprised, is it's about application, not just learning a bunch of stuff. Remember, we talked about it's not education and financial literacy, it's the
Mm-hmm.
application of the information. Knowledge doesn't do anything. Applied knowledge is what's powerful. So they go through the game and they're making decisions. Part of the in one part of the game they have to make a decision and their friends approach them and say, hey, do you want to go to this concert? And it's like the cool thing to go to. Everybody wants to go to it and whatever. If they had valued relationships higher than financial stability and they said, no, I don't want to go, it actually lowers their happiness meter because it
Mm.
isn't in alignment, their decision, with what they said is important to them. And then it gives them that
Wow.
feedback. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if they had labeled it the other way around of, I'm getting it mixed up here probably, but financial stability is super important to me, and then they decide to go to it, it's going to ding them. Because
Mm.
it's like, yeah, you said relationships weren't as important as financial stability. That's going to hurt your progress towards your financial number that you want, whatever. And it just gives the feedback. There's no right or wrong answer, and we're not judging them or anything like that, but it's like, oh, yeah, that is in alignment. And it gets them to kind of think about it a little bit. So it's a really cool game. It brings them through their first job, they get their first check, and they worked 40 hours at, I'll make up a number, $10, so it should be $400 for the week, but they only had 320 in there, and I'm like, wait, who's this fika and who's stealing my money? Right? So kind of walks them through all that stuff all the way to retirement, and they can go bankrupt. There is a piece in there It's really kind of neat. I can't believe we were able to put it in there, but they can actually have that option of starting a side business.
Oh, that's
So it
cool.
actually talks about how to build a side business, how to not
Wow.
commingle funds, how to keep a separate business budget versus a real. They get to do marketing and see that the more they spend on marketing, it takes overhead or expenses to do it, but you got to balance all that, right? And then
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go build my side business." But then what happens if they valued relationships and time with people heavy and they're out doing a bunch of business stuff? What's going to happen? Their happy meter drops because they're
Yeah.
spending all their time on their business.
Hmm.
And it gives them that feedback. And look, there's people in here going, that's me, or listening to this podcast, right? Because we get so focused on our business, we sometimes lose focus. What did they just learn in the game? And now that later down the road, that'll be in the back of their head, and they'll go, I need to do a reset.
Yeah.
No, I could talk about that game for hours. And by the way, the cost of this thing is even better. I'm giving the game away.
Wow.
It's free. I want it to be in every school. Every kid should have it. I don't put this in my marketing, but if people aren't giving it to their kids, they need to be. Why wouldn't you? The resources and people that I've seen teaching this stuff, like at school, it isn't the school's responsibility, by the way. It's the parents. But
Hmm.
if we were to put it on the school, what I've seen when I go in and teach in the school, they usually give it to the person in the school that has the strongest numbers stuff. Oh, you're good with numbers. You should teach it. So what do they teach? Budgets and investment stuff. That's all the stuff. It doesn't matter. I mean, yes, we use numbers and numbers are important,
Hmm.
but it's the behavior, mindset, habits. It's
Yeah.
all the other stuff that's way more important than the technical education stuff. So, yeah, if anybody has a connection to an educator that is willing to take and run with it, person to help get the word out, just spread it. It's free game. Go use it.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I can tell you have such a passion behind this, and this is why you are in the space that you're in. And this has honestly been such a powerful conversation today, Dave. And I know so many people are listening to this and they needed this reminder that money is not just about numbers. It's actually about habits and decisions and having the right support that's around you. So, friends, if you guys are listening today and you have been feeling stuck financially, I want you to take one thing from this episode and actually implement it because clarity without action will not change your life. So, Dave, real quick before we close, where can people connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
The easiest is just jumping on our website, accountable.network. So it's www.accountable.network, not accountable.com, but accountable.network. And that's, you can get a bunch of information there. There's cool blogs. That's where you can find the game. And then if you want to check out coaching, have a conversation with me to see if that's the right direction, we can do that. We have both personal coaches, business coaches, coaches that do both business and personal because there's commingling and they work together. That's the best way to reach me right there.
All right, friends, you heard it. It's www.accountable.network. So, for those of you that are listening, if you're ready to not only get your finances in order, but also step into hosting retreats while you're growing your impact and creating an additional income stream, I would love to connect with you, and so would Dave. So, thank you so much for tuning in to Heat Up Your Retreats podcast. If this episode has blessed you, please share it with someone who needs it. And remember, your message matters, your impact matters, and it's time to heat up your retreats and your life. I will see you on the next episode. Bye, friends. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a review so more leaders like you can heat things up too. Until next time, keep dreaming big, keep planning bold, and keep heating up your retreat.